Welcome to the Possibility Action Network podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Middleton, aka Possibility Man. We are committed to bringing you guests who strive to better people's lives and serve as a force for good in the world. Today, our guest is Holly Porter. She's the founder of Holly Porter International, whose mission is to impact the world in a positive way. Holly is passionate about building relationships, fostering community, and promoting prosperity globally. As Holly says, strong connections are prerequisites for success, authentic interactions, and thriving communities. Holly and her team strive to create a culture of collaboration, creativity, and innovation where everyone can succeed and prosper. Holly, welcome to the show today.
Thank you. How are you? I'm happy to be here.
Okay, awesome. Hey, I am so excited to talk to you. I almost swallowed my words a few moments ago. But before we get into it, Holly, I want to make this announcement to our listeners and our viewers. Follow, like, and share this podcast wherever you find it. Your support matters and is appreciated. Holly, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. And
Is fall beginning to show its face in your home state?
not yet. We're still in the 100 digits.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. That's I'm in South Carolina, and at night we're getting into the 60s, and today it may get into the
Nice.
low 80s, but we are rocking and rolling as we head toward our autumn.
I love fall. It's my
Yeah.
favorite.
Yeah, okay. Hey, look, I wanted to talk to you. There are a number of reasons why I wanted to talk to you, but I want to start with the number one reason I said I want to talk to Holly, and that is you reported a near death experience. And NDE, I believe, is how people talk about it. Firstly, Holly, what is a near death experience?
Well, I almost want to like back up a little because people have heard of near-death experience, but even myself, I had heard of that, but
Mhm.
I didn't know that there was two others, and maybe there's more, but this is what I do know. There's out-of-body experiences, then there's spiritual transformational experience, and then there's NDE experiences, NDE.
Oh.
And I didn't realize they were all different, and I had all of them. So of course, the
Mm.
most impactful for me was the near death because that was really some defining things. I shouldn't, I don't know, back up. I don't know if I would say that
Okay.
because
Uh-huh.
spiritual transformational experience was probably the most aha. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
But that was like
That makes sense.
one little experience where the near death was like the story, right?
Mm. Mhm.
So just saying that, I wanted to preface those because I didn't know that. I'm assuming a lot of other people don't realize that they're different. So near death is
Mhm.
when that you're near death or you died and
Mhm.
all these things happen to you while you're in that moment. For some
Uh-huh.
people, you could be gone for days, weeks, years, months. Some are instant, but the time is not the same. Our time
Uh,
and the time you go to are not the same at all.
mhm. Okay, so before I want to come back to NDE, but you mentioned a couple of other things that you think are very important. One
Yeah.
is it was a spiritual awakening.
Well, you would call it, yeah, I never really looked at it as an awakening, but it's called
Uh,
so spiritual transformational
Spiritual
experience.
transformation. Okay.
But yeah, I
Okay.
would
So
call that an awakening, sure.
okay. Yeah, so what is that? Help me understand this. Then we'll roll back to NDE.
Well, for me, a lot of people have different stories, right? We all have our
Okay.
own. But for me, it was a particular incident. Do you want me to share the story with you?
Of COVID.
No, of well, of
Well, I
how
tell you what. Yeah, share, give it to us. Yeah, I
I'll just
can't wait. I'm not going to wait. Give it to me. Give it to us.
well, and there's lots of details, so I'm gonna like
Uh-huh.
try to give you kind of the surface because like each one of these could be their own podcast, no doubt
Okay.
of the detail. So the spiritual transformational I thought was another near death until I learned about spiritual transformational experiences. So that incident, what basically happened was I was in the hospital. We can talk about that later with COVID for 70 days, and I was in a coma a lot of the time. So I was pretty much near death when this particular incident happened, the first 3 weeks of the 70-day stay. And my cousin, who's kind of like a sister, I had two sisters that stayed with me in the hospital 24/7 because my husband was home with COVID and couldn't come. So for the first 3.5 weeks, I didn't even get to see him, which was hard when you're almost dying, right? Um,
Mhm.
and my cousin had an experience of her own that was spiritual. And she wrote it in a text to my sisters. And she said, I wouldn't normally share this, but I feel like because Holly's not doing well, I want her to hear these words. So I remember them reading it to me, and they must have put me back in an induced coma. Sometimes I was paralyzed, sometimes not. And I remember being really mad. I was mad because I'm sitting here suffering. It was like that sister rivalry, even though she's a cousin, she's more like a sister. And it was like, why I'm praying, why did she get that? And I didn't. I'm the one here suffering. That's not fair. I mean, the little
Uh-huh.
2-year-old stomping kid in me,
Yeah, yeah.
it's like, this isn't fair. I'm suffering. And many days I prayed that this sucks. And if I'm not going to get better, then get me out of here. I don't want to go through this anymore. And if I'm going to get better, then let's get to it. Yeah, that's just pretty much the line in the sand for me. And so
Mhm.
that was that prayer leading up to it. And my mom had passed away about a year and a half before all of this. And she came to me many times on my right side. And I had many, many healer friends that have told me, not soliciting that information, told me that she was on my right side. And it was just nice to have that confirmation from others, knowing that they knew she was there, and they always said her right side, my right side. So she came to me again on the right side, and she said what you hear a lot of people with experiences like this say,
Mhm.
you got to go back. It's not your time. My mom basically said those words. She just said, it's not your time and you
Mhm.
need to fight. And when she said the word fight, um, all these people in white that I knew, grandparents that had passed on,
Mhm.
appeared in front of me. And I had a grandbaby that had just died 6 months before.
Oh my.
I knew it was her, but she was an adult, but I knew it was her. I had a brother and sister-in-law that had died, a favorite aunt, grandparents. We have a huge family. So they all appeared and they started chanting, fight, fight. And when they did that, it was, I don't even like that word, but it was
Mhm.
like every time the word fight would get said, a whole new group of people would appear behind them. So here's my husband, here's my kids, here's my siblings appearing, here's my friends. And it just, every time they chanted fight, it went back as far as I could see. And people I didn't even know that I believe now were all those prayer chains, what I'm trying to say, that I was on, and all my friends and my family and their friends and family that had asked for prayers on my behalf. I believe those were all
Mhm.
the people that appeared to me in this experience to let me know how powerful number one prayer is, and that you have all this support backing you up. You need to fight.
Mhm.
And it was that moment, the line in the sand for me. It was like, got it. That's all I needed to know, was that I had to fight and that I was going to live. Like that was the moment I knew I would live. And for
Mhm.
me, it still was a long journey. I was still in the hospital a lot of weeks after that, but I was aware that it was going to be okay. And I knew I'd live. I didn't have
Okay.
that. I never have had the fear of dying. But anyway, that was that experience.
Okay. So that was the spiritual transformation for you.
That was.
Okay. And what about the out of body experience? What was that?
So I had many of those. A lot of them
Give
are,
us one.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just tell you how a lot of them, I always
Okay.
traveled in my bed, even to my near death experience. I always went in my bed. And I think that the reason I did that was because I thought if I leave my body, I wouldn't get it back. I wanted my
Mm.
body, right? Because
Mm.
if I left, that was it for me. So I traveled in my bed. In fact, we have a book coming up, and one of the chapters are called Me in My Bed, because me and my bed went everywhere. I mean, I literally had, in picture like a Connex storage shed type thing, that
Mm.
the truckers drive. I literally
Mm.
pictured this, that the ambulance, I don't know why it's an ambulance, would hook up to it every day, and it would take me. So not just not my bed, the whole room would go, and we would go on all
Mm.
these journeys, and I would get out of body. And I went back in time most of the time to a little town in Utah called Parowan, Utah. The only ties I know I have there is it's a little pioneer town. And I went to my great grandfather's, which I didn't know
Mm.
for sure confirmation until later, like a year later. I was researching it and went, that's who it is. I thought he was related, but I didn't know how. Anyways, 165 years ago, that house was built.
Mm.
So it was somewhere in that time. So that was kind of a interesting. I always went back in time in my out of body, or
Mm.
a couple times I went to present time, where I consciously knew I was in the hospital and things, and
Mm.
I still was out of body, but I knew. But most of the time I was back in time. I never went into the future. Um,
Mm.
I don't know if that that would have been kind
Yeah.
of cool too. But anyway, so lots of those were happening all
So
along.
you had some deep experiences that touched you. But let me ask you, and I want to come back to COVID in a moment, but how did these experiences, you feeling that you're near death, but you didn't die, you had a spiritual transformation experience, an STE, and you experienced being out of your body and traveling in time backwards. How did those experiences change you, affect you?
They changed everything.
Mm.
I feel like I came back. I had a real struggle for 2 years, the first 2 years. It's been three right now. Not since I did, like, since I went into the hospital. In
Mhm.
fact, let's say in a couple days it'll be 3 years exactly when I entered the hospital. But I feel like those 2 years after that, I really struggled. And I don't know if it's because, we vibrate, people vibrate on different levels. And I don't know if I came back because how do I explain it? I was just vibrating different, and I ended up in some real lows, like the worst 2 years of my whole life. I mean, I've been through
Mhm.
divorce. I mean, combining kids, deaths, losing lots of people, and nothing compared to the 2 years. And I thought, how do you come back from where I've been? Like, I wished I would have died
Mm.
many days. I was like, why would God save me to put me through this hell? That's basically what I thought. And I know now, looking back, they were some lessons I had to learn. They're also part of the journey of what I need to create in the future. And if I
Mhm.
wouldn't have had those experiences, it wouldn't have motivated me to continue my mission. I absolutely can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that I now have a calling. I never could have told you before. I've had 11 startup companies. We've done lots of
Mhm.
different things. We have, 8 adult children we've
Mhm.
raised. We have a huge
Mhm.
family. We've done all these things. I never felt like, I remember laying in my hospital bed thinking, is this it? Like,
Mhm.
did I do enough? Was I enough? Am I enough? Did I leave? What kind of legacy am I leaving if I leave? And I
Uh-huh.
remember, I don't feel like I wasn't satisfied. I almost want to say I wasn't gratified. Like, I feel
Mhm.
like that gratification wasn't there going, yeah, you got this. You did it all. It was like, no, I have plenty more to do. And
Uh-huh. Okay.
and
Mhm.
so, yeah, that I
Yeah.
struggled with. I
Okay.
don't know. Did that answer it?
Gotcha. But yeah, yeah, yeah. But did you feel, or do you feel that you came out of those experiences a wiser person?
Yes, not wiser as far as a know-it-all, or I'm
Uh-huh.
better, or not like that. I feel like, so a lot of people come back with the message about love, and love is what you feel. The unconditional is what you feel. The message that honestly I didn't remember,
Mhm.
I learned just last December. I had a hypnosis session because I remembered a whole bunch of stuff from the out of bodies. I remembered clearly the a spiritual transformational experience, but the near death, there were a few gaps missing. And I believe that God reveals, and I hope whatever that is for anyone else, that's who it is for me, reveals to us what we need at that time and at that moment. Because I had those gaps, but with writing the book, I'm like, I want to be in integrity and I want to make sure that I'm not making stuff up. Like I want to make sure. And so I had a hypnosis session. Oh, best thing I ever did. It was a game changer. The message that I didn't remember completely was this message: love them where they're at. And that changed my whole perception of the 2 years before, what I had been going through. And I mean, I cried every day for 2 days. I mean, for 2 years, every day. And I'm not a crier. It was so emotional. And if I would have remembered that, I would have handled probably the situations different. And I wouldn't have got the lessons that I needed, that I know I needed for future.
Gotcha.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now I think I saw somewhere where you either wrote or told someone that you felt that you had actually spoken to God. Is that right? Or something like that?
I wouldn't say I spoke to God. No, it's like, I don't even
But you heard the
remember.
voice of God. You something. Go ahead.
Yeah. So in the near death, my life review, like, I don't ever feel like what I felt like I saw was angels more. I don't remember a guide taking me, a guide, not a guy, a guide. I do feel like, I feel like that everybody has to learn their job, right? So even if you're in heaven, you still can be in training to learn something, even if it's heavenly or whatever. And I think, because when I came back and came out, I was told my sister, I was afraid they were going to take me again. Well, why would I care? If I'm in heaven, why, I don't remember getting a choice to come back. I remember getting like pretty much kicked back down here and being afraid they're going to take me again. Because I said I felt kidnapped. I spelled it out to my sister because I was ventilated. And I spelled out KIDN. And she's like, oh my gosh, when I realized you were trying to spell kidnapped, I was sick, because she ran an errand and came back, and I'm telling her I got kidnapped. And so it's like, that's, to me, I think my guide was in training, and I think they took me, and they weren't supposed to take me. And that's why I felt like I got slapped back down here. But up there, my life review was seeing everything positive, everything good. And I know that's not true. I know I've done plenty of crap, just like the rest of us. I know that, but I think that I couldn't see, or I don't remember. Remember, things will be revealed to you when the time is right. Like, that keeps coming back to me all the time, because there is more. The bad's there, but I don't think my heart could have taken seeing that. I think I just was not in that space to see that. So that's as close as I think that feeling, to God I had.
Okay. And what opened all of this for you, the NDE, the STE, and out-of-body experience, was that you were sick with COVID. Is that right?
Yeah, I got the Delta version. I was home for a week, and then I woke up, or I was awake, whatever. Intuitively, I knew I was in trouble. I got to the hospital, and my oxygen was 63. By the time my husband, he had COVID too, but he wasn't quite as sick. I don't even know how he drove us there, but he pulled in, dropped me off, went and parked. He said, you know how slow they are in the ERs, right? By the time he parked the car and came in, I was already in the ICU, and he couldn't even see me anymore, like that quick. So they knew I was in trouble. 4 days, and I never wanted to be ventilated at that moment. We all knew that if you go on a ventilator, that's pretty much it. You're done. I was intubated twice, and I was on a ventilator, and then I had the trach. I was on a ventilator for about 52 out of the 70 days.
70 days. Oh my gosh. No wonder you called it long COVID.
Yeah. Well, long COVID is what you deal with after, because you don't get better. It causes so much damage to your body.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm glad that you're thriving now. Now, I want to move on because I think you're also an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, how did you get into business and entrepreneurship?
Oh, I'll blame my mom and dad. They were both entrepreneurs. My dad was a mason, and he had like the third largest masonry company in Las Vegas at one time. So back when it was a lot smaller, obviously, but so he was successful at that. My mom was a homemaker. I grew up with 8 other siblings, so we had a huge family. And she was very creative. She catered weddings, so we always were doing events, and she would make the cakes, and she could make wedding dresses and things like that too, but she mostly focused on events. So starting at 12, my dad put me to work in his office in the summer. I remember looking at the chart up there of the minimum wage, and it was $3.35 an hour, and he was paying me $2.50.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I was getting gypped, but I got to do all the cleaning and the filing, and at that point we had to buy our own school clothes. He would buy our shoes, and I just learned that if you want things, you earn them, and you go to work and you roll up your sleeves and you do the hard stuff. And so that's kind of where it started. I've had lots of different companies in a lot of different areas, and I usually maybe 3 to 4 companies at a time we have.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. No, but I think you were also engaged in, maybe you are now, in startups. Now, I've been around some startups. So I tell you what, startups concern me because if they're not managed well, they're here today and gone tomorrow. But you have been involved with a few startups. Tell us about your ventures in starting companies.
Yeah, I love new stuff, and they weren't really all related or anything. Like for instance, when my kids were little, I had a daycare, and I did very well with that. So I had the daycare, and then I had a preschool, and then I had a kids clothing store, like a resale type store, and it was really popular in Las Vegas. But I opened one in Utah, and they were about 2 years behind the idea. I do that a lot. I'm an early adapter. I think of something and boom, I do it. And then kind of like when it really could be really successful, I'm kind of over it at that point. So I'm not a quitter. I just move on, or I add something else to it. I had the longest things I've done is I had a salon and spa for 20 years. I've done real estate. I'm a real estate broker. I've done that for 20 years. We have a concrete company that we've had. Oh, my husband and I have been married 22 years. And so he had it way before me. So we've had that one a long, long time. So it's not like we just are fly by night, and get things, but clearly 2 things were told to me in my coma. One was to start this nonprofit called Adventure Bucket Wish Foundation. And we serve the long COVID community. And there's a whole backstory with that, but that was one thing. And the second thing, I had just come up with as the founder for a company that's a retreat leader software. So picture Airbnb, Eventbrite, Unicity, Corsica, like the trainings, membership site, all in one with all encompassing retreats, all about retreats. Wow. And that's what we're building. And it doesn't exist. All of that doesn't exist in one platform. So it's been 3 years in the making. And of course, I almost died in between that. But that's really my heart and soul right now. I know what a game changer it'll be for so many lives. But in the end, my goal is to build it, scale it, and sell it, because I have so much philanthropy work I want to continue to do with that money that will be my legacy. I feel like that's building the company is part of it, but really using those. I want to be a check writer. That's what I want to do. I don't want to start all these new companies anymore. I just want to support really good causes and things that are so needed.
Yeah, that sounds good. To be a check writer, especially. Yeah. Well, look, but not only have you started businesses and you got a huge project going on now, I also saw that you enjoy, I hope that's the right word, empowering individuals and businesses. How do you go about empowering, supporting individuals and businesses?
A hard lesson to learn with that is I can really only care as much as they do. So if somebody is passionate about something, I'm their best cheerleader. I will get behind them and I will support them any way possible I can. Sometimes life just gets in the way, right? But I want the positive, and I love working with business people from the ground up even. I love the innovation, the new ideas. I'm an early adopter, like I said. But it takes tenacity and it takes resilience, and those are skills sometimes that people can't learn or won't learn, I
Yeah.
should say, because it's just not in them. It's like back when I was going to, had a hair school for a bit too, and teaching people the hair. And really, honestly, there are some people, they could get their license, but they're just really never going to be great at it. Like, it's just not, they might love it, but they're not good at it. Everybody can't be good at everything. And so we need to just find what we love, and we want to support, and then work and do everything you can to be as good as you can.
Yeah, that sounds good. And you also help people, or build their brand or brand themselves.
Yeah.
There's a lot of conversation about branding on social media today. How do you help someone identify their brand and actually build it, extend it?
Well, I don't do like brand marketing or anything like that. I'm
Okay.
more of an idea person, and then I can connect. I love being a connector and putting people with the right people. I joke that I've connected 14 couples. That's 28 people, and they all got married, and not one of them are divorced. So I'm like, I think I just see and feel the energies of people and think it'll be a good fit. And so far, so good. So maybe I
Okay.
should be a relationship coach instead. No, just kidding.
Maybe you're still a relationship platform. But did you feel that you had that intuitive sense before your NDE and STE and the like, or is that something that came later?
I did have it before, but it was more what I would call the gift of knowing. So when people
Okay.
say, how do you know that? I get asked that all the time. How do you know that? I don't know. I just know. That to me is the gift of knowing. When you get something without it being known, you just know. That's an
Yeah.
intuitive piece. And so now, yeah, it's definitely turned up more, especially the last year, because those 2 years, I feel like I was just in a really dark place with everything, that now I feel like now that it's turned on, people can manifest. I'm telling you, if you don't believe in manifestation, you go study it a little more, because like I know my husband knows, he'll say, don't say it, don't say it. Because if I say I need or want something out loud, he knows I'll get it. If I want something, I will figure out a way. There is always a way. And he jokes, oh, don't say it, don't say it, because you'll get
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, you sound like my mother. She used to say, "Where there's a will, there's a way." She didn't think about not getting it. She thought about getting it, and more often than not, she manifested it for sure. Now, you've had COVID. You were very sick at one point. Today, it's 2024. A lot of people talk about a plant-based lifestyle or nutritarian lifestyle. What type of lifestyle do you follow, or if you follow one, to try to become a healthier person?
yeah, that's been huge for me. So just to preface, I I never got sick. Like, really, I didn't have issues before I got COVID. And so to go from like being a healthy person to a very, very sick person, I mean, the diagnosis is within 2 months out of the hospital, just started piling up, of all these things that were life threatening. And probably like the last 3 months, I have finally felt like I'm about 85%. I mean, I do have some diagnoses that I don't like to be attached to, but they're there, right? I mean, pulmonary fibrosis, for instance, that's a lung disease. It doesn't just go away. But guess what? It hasn't gotten worse. So I have a hyperbaric. That was a miracle. I have so many miracles to this whole story. I never had insurance till 2 months before I got sick.
Wow.
My whole life. 2 months before I
Mm.
got sick, I got insurance, and my bill was $1 million.
Whoa,
So
someone was
there
looking out
were
for you for sure.
so there's so many miracles within the story. So health looks so much different to me now. I'm a big supplement taker. I really try to stay off sugar. I mean, I'm not a fanatic. I love to eat, I mean, but eating is different now. Eating to me is more for the nutrition of how it's going to make me feel, instead of just to eat. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I
So, I mean, it sounds like a holistic lifestyle, not just one thing, one brand, someone brand, but the whole
yeah.
thing. So, sounds good. All right. So, look, you mentioned some adversity, COVID obviously is the big one. So I got to ask you, this is the Possibility Action Network podcast. Did you have any trouble with your emotions, with your moods as you were going through COVID and being sick for such a long time?
Oh, so that was another thing. When you're in the hospital, I don't think I care who you are. If you were in the hospital for any length of time, you have anxiety, depression, PTSD. Like if you walk out of there without any of those, it'd be a miracle because there's so much going down. Your body's going through so much. The anxiety was out the roof. The nurses would ask my sister, "Are you sure she wasn't on any medication before for anxiety? Because she's really bad." And I'm thinking to myself, let me take your air away and let's see how you react.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have an elephant
Yeah.
sitting on your chest, you can't breathe. You're breathing through a tube. You're sicker than sick. Yeah, I'm panicking because I can't catch my breath, right? So that's real. And I'm already claustrophobic. So a thing that's been really a challenge is figuring out, because now I have to wear a CPAP. I don't have to have oxygen on it anymore, but I do have to wear that at night. I have sensory issues. So I wear a mask that has speakers in it. So I listen to binaural beats and affirmations all 8 hours because my ears ring constantly. So I have my eyes covered, my ears covered, and a CPAP. I'm really beautiful at night, let me tell you. And I have to tell myself, because I'm so claustrophobic, that this is saving your life. This is saving your life. And I know those are more natural ways of doing it, but I walked in on no drugs and walked out on 12. Now I'm drug free, but that was a journey.
You're drug free. That's awesome.
Free. Yeah.
Yeah.
By choice.
But indeed. Okay. So, I mean, how did you resolve the kinds of things that caused you depression? Or was it that you walked out of the hospital, anxiety, depression, left you alone?
Well, for me, because I obviously reached my insurance maximum, what do you call that? Deductible, real quick.
Yeah.
When you have $1 million bill, that next year, I did my insurance, everything was covered 100%. So I did everything. I did a thing called TMS, transcranial magnetic stimulation. It hurts because whatever gland whatever that hits, it's a tapping thing. Mine was like clear up here. So it hurt to do it. But one side's anxiety, one side's depression. Looking back, I think I did it too soon. I think I really wasn't. I just didn't feel like it did that much for me. And it was $10,000. Actually, it was almost 12. Yeah. All my deductibles were paid. So I'm like, I'll try it. I mean, I went to physical therapy, pulmonary therapy, occupational therapy. What else is left? I don't know. I went to counseling. To me, it was all about getting well. Yeah. Everything's about better's better. Yeah. That's what I would say.
Yeah, you took care of yourself. That sounds good. Yeah. Holly Porter International. What do you do with that? Or are you still engaged with Holly Porter International?
Yeah, well, I rebranded that. I was going by Prosperity Profilers, and my thing is to teach people how to bring in multiple streams of income and stay sane. Because everyone's just focus on one thing. I'll never do that. Like people tell me that all the time. I'm never going to do that. So I might as well get good at juggling, right? And people would say, I've never seen anyone be able to juggle so many things and be good at it. And I'm not great at it, but I feel like I am good at it. And it's just how I like things, right? And not everybody can do that. So I'm not recommending that for everybody. But really, like right now, my focus, so I rebranded to Holly Porter International. So it was just a little more broad, general under my name, because I was doing, consulting and coaching. And I thought to sell that company, that's selling my name. It's me anyway. So anyway, that was kind of behind that. But yeah, I really just want to work with people now that want to add the whole thing's about retreats. So for personal reasons, I'd work with people would be like somebody who is maybe a speaker or an author coach, and they have some kind of an existing business. They're doing okay. They have a tribe of people and they want to do more. They want to add an additional income stream, not a new business, an additional income stream. By doing retreats, they can do that. They can not only sell coaching packages at the retreat, they can make money on the retreat too. And people are not going away. It's big.
That's exciting. I mean, some people are struggling with a single income stream, but you talk about multiple income streams. In fact,
Not
that's
the
pretty
smart.
bold of you. What's that?
It's not the smartest thing to
Well,
do.
I'll tell you what, but for sure, you are bold. There's no doubt about it. Now, I want to talk about just a couple of more things. You are a speaker. You've demonstrated that here today. But what kinds of things do you try to do with audiences when you take the stage?
Yeah, I love interaction with my
Yeah.
audiences. So it depends how long I have to speak. If you have 20 minutes, it's pretty limited. But if I have
Mhm.
45 or an hour, I get them up. I get them doing things. I like the
Mhm.
motivation. I do fun things. Like I did a train talk about trains, and there's lots of ways you can integrate that in your talk about,
Mhm.
moving. It was about decision making, right? And I had the red pill and the blue pill, and I just used M&Ms. And so I put a little cup by everybody, and they had one of each, and they had 10 seconds to make a decision. We counted
Mhm.
down, and the decision was like to either you get $10 million right now, and you just get it, or you are, I can't remember how old we went back to. You were like 5 years old, and you get to relive your life. You don't get the
Mhm.
money, but you get to relive your life. And then you had to decide which one you wanted right now. And it was
Yeah.
interesting because I do a lot of personality profiling, and people that were sentimental, they thought first, oh, I could go back and spend all that time with my grandma, or you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Oh, I'd be five. The money didn't motivate them, but people that were like, they're like, oh, if I took, oh, you could take all your knowledge with you. That was it. You could take your knowledge
Mhm.
back to when you were younger. And so people with knowledge that know how to make money could make way more
Mhm.
than $10 million. But people that just wanted it now, they wanted to just stay where they were. And there was no judgment either way, but it was just, it tells you a lot about yourself, who you are. And I like stuff like that. It
Yeah,
makes it
yeah.
exciting to get people
Yeah,
thinking,
sounds
oh,
it sounds like you it sounds like you love it, that you love,
I love it.
taking the stage as a platform performer. That's awesome. Yeah, but look, you are a busy person. I mean, you're one of the busiest people I've ever met because look, you've written over a dozen books. I mean, how does a person write over a dozen books?
Well, full disclosure, some of those I was just a contributing author. So they weren't all
Okay.
start to finish mine. I
Uh-huh.
also was a publisher. I guess I technically still am. I just don't really focus on publishing. But so I had my own book series of three that were for women. So, like those women, there were 110 women total in three books. So I didn't write the whole thing. You know what I mean? So, full
Yeah, I
disclosure,
got you. You
I've
got
only
yeah,
written a handful.
sure. Yeah, I mean, that's a powerful way of actually being a part of a book, to
It
have
is.
contributors join you in a project. I mean, I like that. So,
Well, they're all
um,
international #1 bestsellers. So how exciting that
wow,
I was part of a project that gave 110 women that title. You only need it
yeah.
once. So
Well, so what kinds of topics do you all cover in those books, especially to
those
attract an international audience?
those were pretty simple. Those books were 7 questions. They had 1,000 words, and they could write, if they wanted to take 500 words with one question and divide up the rest. It didn't matter how they did it,
Mm.
but they had to answer all 7 questions of the same question. So it was nice because if you're like, that woman was what I wish didn't, let's see, I have to think of the name. Wisdom from 40 women over 40. So they had to be 40 or
Yes.
older. And so those are your
Yeah.
younger women looking at this. So the questions were based on that. And it just, yeah, they just shared the wisdom. So if you wanted to know the same question answer to 40 women, you could just skim through, question number
Yeah.
two in the whole book and read all the
Yeah.
answers. So
I think that's
fun
clever.
book.
I
It
think
was,
that
I
that's
like
in
fun
fact,
projects.
in fact, I think that's brilliant. And because we need, to get good ideas, right? And you got 40 people who've lived through it sharing with you. I think that's brilliant. But there's a lot more that you do. But there's one more thing I can't let you go without talking about. I'm not sure if you still do it or not. Thing mysterious. What is it? What is it? Are you a podcast host?
Oh, that's such a loaded question right now. Yes, is the short answer. I have one for the nonprofit. Um, Honestly, I'm just going to tell you right now. Well, let's just say it. Just last week, I had a big aha when I was doing a show, and I
Mhm.
realized that my mission for the nonprofit isn't what I want anymore. And it's weird
Mm.
because I struggle with, if God told me to do that in my coma, why is this happening? And I think it was the name that he gave me, not necessarily the cause. I created the cause because long COVID came after I had COVID, right? And so that's what we made it for. But the energy this person was telling a beautiful story, and they're way involved in all the Facebook long COVID pages, and those exhaust me. And I realized that because I'm getting better, I don't want to be in that energy anymore. I want to be in wellness. I want to be in positive. And so we're in the middle of, so the podcast is stopping as of that show. And
Okay.
I'm just going to revamp the nonprofit because I would rather work with maybe women that are entrepreneurs and figure out ways to partner with other people. And that just sounds more happy to me. And it's hard to have a nonprofit that's not fun because nobody wants to hear about COVID anymore. They check out. And so, yeah, I'm just saying that's where we're at right now. So there is one for the retreat. We just started recording them. They're not live yet, but it's called All Things Retreat. And I'm super excited about that one. That'll be a fun one. If it's not fun, I'm not doing it.
Yep, and you just gave it. I was going to say, but you just gave us something quite powerful, and you repeated it just a moment ago. And I'll put it this way: if it doesn't feel good, you may want to think hard about doing it. If it feels good, that may be a green light. Don't want to say it should be, but that's what I got from you. So that was good. Holly, is there anything else in your heart that you want to share with us before we leave today?
I would say I want to leave the message to remember what I said about love them where they're at. Because with that being said, it's takes the judgment out of people for me in particular. Like if you just think I just need to love them where they're at. Doesn't matter what they're doing. You're going to love them unconditional because it's what they are. It's what they know. And it's who they are. So you just love them where they're at. And I think I would just challenge people to think about that before we start passing judgment and anger towards our fellow men.
I love that. I love that. Love them where they're at. Heck, that's a good title for my show. Well, look, Holly, I really enjoyed our time together today. Thank you for saying yes when I extended my invitation to you.
And I love your name. Possibilities was one of my New Year's, names for the year a few years ago. I love it. So they keep doing good in the world. I love it. Thank you.
That sounds good. Well, you've been listening to the Possibility Action Network podcast. Our guest today has been Holly Porter. I'm your host, Stephen Middleton. Until next time, good day.
You are not alone. Just keep on going. Just press on, press on.